What happened to the chips?
Can you be ghosted by a bag of chips? Well, it sure feels that way when it comes to these 10 discontinued chips that don't exist anymore. Try not to shed a tear. Cheetos Cracker Trax.
Flavor is a flaming hot Cheeto. Hot.
Occasionally, many of the popular chip brands have ventured out of their comfort zones. Back in the 90s, Cheetos decided to try their hand at crackers. With the same creativity and innovation that made Cheetos one of the biggest snack brands on the planet, the company released Cracker Trax. Cracker Trax were small crackers shaped like Chester Cheetah's paws, covered in the same cheesy goodness that we've come to expect from Cheetos. The paw-shaped crackers also came in additional flavors, such as spicy cheddar and cheesy cheddar. Cracker Trax were just as cheesy as Cheetos and left you with the same neon orange fingerprints afterward. While the snack did manage to make it into the new millennium, they were discontinued in the mid-2000s. However, there is a silver lining with this crackerless cloud, as Cheetos did release a snack similar to the Cracker Trax called Paws shortly after. Paws were more of a cheese puff than a cracker, and they were made with corn and not wheat. But the little cheesy paws were just as cheesy. Cheetos Paws were discontinued in 2003, but made a comeback and are currently available today.
We still got the good stuff. Cheetos, Fritos, Doritos.
Fritos Wild and Mild Ranch.
It didn't work. You people invented ranch dressing.
Let's face it, Fritos are pretty close to being perfect on their own. With the perfect balance between salt and crunchy corn goodness, you might think that anything extra would throw off the balance and ruin your Frito eating experience. You'd be wrong, and the popular corn chip brand has proven that point with 29 delicious flavors. However, one of the most inventive and intriguing was the Wild and Mild Ranch.
Wow.
Back in the 80s and 90s, Wild and Mild Ranch were some of the most popular corn chips available to the snacking public. Complete with a Wild West-themed ad campaign, the corn chips were described as very similar in flavor to the famous Cool Ranch Doritos, which is a compliment and a half. Unfortunately, the Wild Mild Fritos were discontinued despite their large fan following. The corn chips did, however, make a brief comeback in the early 2010s, albeit as a limited-run item. This hasn't stopped the Wild and Mild fans from making it known online that they desperately want their beloved snack back on store shelves. Keep those ranch-dusted fingers crossed, Wild and Mild fans. Lay's Cheddar Bacon Mac and Cheese Chips.
What does fold in the cheese mean? He folds it in.
The biggest chip brand on the planet has gifted the world some instant classics and a few, well, let's just call them forgettable flavors. But who's keeping track? One of the interesting and tastiest flavors launched by Lay's was their Cheddar Bacon Mac and Cheese Chips. It's safe to say that as soon as you heard those 4 words, you immediately started licking your lips. And rightfully so. As you'd expect with a flavor like Cheddar Bacon Mac and Cheese, these chips were quite popular, receiving rave reviews. The creamy, smoky goodness of bacon mac and cheese generously dusted over those crunchy golden Lays seems too good to be true. Well, unfortunately it is now, as these chips were discontinued. When asked about the fate of the Cheddar Bacon Mac and Cheese chips, Lay's responded via Twitter, "Right now there aren't any plans to bring back Lay's Cheddar Bacon Mac and Cheese. Thanks." Okay. Thanks a lot, Lay's. New to BabbleTop? Then how about hitting that subscribe button? All the cool kids are doing it, so why not you? Thanks. Ruffles Cajun Spice.
This is crazy, man.
The 1980s. What more can be said about that fabulous yet uncanny decade that you had to have been a part of to truly appreciate? Nowadays, shows like Stranger Things remind us of the wild crimped hair and ripped jeans decade, but there was nothing like a good 80s snack. Pop Rocks, Hostess pudding pies, and Push Pops are all fine, but the chip flavors of the 80s, such as Ruffles Cajun Spice, were just as eccentric as the decade they were launched in. The Cajun Spice Ruffles were dusted with classic Cajun spices and debuted at the tail end of the 1980s, as the Cajun food craze was at its peak.
I feel for you, son.
Unfortunately, the Cajun Spice Ruffles never managed to see the 90s as they were discontinued. Perhaps the flavor was simply too exotic for chip fans. Or maybe the Cajun food trend was fizzling out. What is certain is that despite being a popular flavor, the Cajun Spice Ruffles won't be making a comeback anytime soon. Hopefully, the next season of Stranger Things will feature the popular chip flavor and prompt Ruffles to bring the Cajun Spice back from the depths of the Upside Down. Okay, that was the last Stranger Things reference. Pringles Cinnamon Sugar.
Cinnamon's here for a sleepover party!
The idea of opening up a fresh bag of potato chips, popping a few in your mouth, and being met with that crisp crunch is all but expected. What isn't expected, however, is the immediate sensation of cinnamon sugar. Once upon a time, Pringles creative scientists made their way to the lab and concocted this devilishly delicious yet off-the-wall idea. Swap out savory salty with sugary sweet. The result? Cinnamon sugar Pringles. Yes, these sweet Pringles are generously dusted with cinnamon and sugar, giving the chips a unique taste, to say the least. While this particular flavor combo may seem rather weird at first, well, that's because it is. The unconventional cinnamon sugar flavored chips were met with mostly negative feedback from chip fans. So much so that the company discontinued the sweet Pringles almost immediately after they made it onto store shelves. The cinnamon sugar Pringles were only one of a full line of dessert-based potato chips the company launched starting in 2012. Though the cinnamon sugar was the most well-received, it wasn't enough to avoid the inevitable. If you think cinnamon sugar is odd, wrap your head around pecan pie, pumpkin spice, and white chocolate peppermint Pringles. Remember, these are chips we're talking about.
Stack Pringles flavors. Make new ones.
Cheetos, X's and O's.
Cheetos and chopsticks?
Yes, so you don't get Cheetos fingers.
Who remembers the year 2000? For those old enough to remember, the new millennium was full of people recovering from the Y2K scare, the PlayStation 2 was launched in Japan, and a bunch of other stuff that has no relevance to snacks also happened. Now, when it comes to snacks, all the major chip brands had to ring in the new year with a host of different new millennium chip flavors.
We're living in the best time in the history of the world.
Cheetos decided to make snack lovers' lives a little more jovial as the 90s came to a close with X's and O's. X's and O's were just as cheesy as their older brother. However, the fun shape of the snack made playing with your food almost acceptable. Hey, there's nothing wrong with having a little fun with your snacks. Unfortunately, that fun was short-lived. Cheetos X's and O's didn't get to ring in the new year with the other snacks for too long, as they were discontinued and exist simply as a Y2K memory. Some people who were fortunate enough to have sampled the playful snacks claim that the X's were somehow better than the O's. Were they right? Unfortunately, we may never know the answer. Lay's Wavy Fried Green Tomato Chips.
Fried green tomatoes are a Southern specialty.
Fried green tomatoes. Whether you're talking about the hit film starring Kathy Bates or the scrumptious Southern comfort food, those three words will ultimately prompt a fond memory or two. So this must have been the goal over at Lay's HQ when their chipologists, that's a thing, right, came up with the fried green tomato chips. These wavy delights were part of a contest launched by the brand back in the late 2010s. The Do Us a Flavor contest had fans and aspiring chipologists sending their flavor ideas with the goal of having their creativity brought to life. That and a $1 million prize for the winning flavor. Ultimately, the Southern-inspired flavor wasn't selected as the winner. That distinction went to Crispy Taco. However, the FGT chips were well received. Unfortunately, these chips were never meant to be anything besides a limited-time-only item, and thus didn't stick around too long after they landed on store shelves.
Where's my potato chips?
Keebler Tato Skins.
We attacked the Rice Krispie guys at dawn.
Keebler has been a pioneer in the snacking world for almost 200 years, if you can wrap your head around that. Serving up the likes of EL fudge cookies, Cheez-Its, and even Famous Amos, to name a few, the Keebler elves continue to dish out their unique brand of popular snack fare to the hungry masses. The brand has also dipped their toe into the lucrative potato chip waters, offering interesting takes on the classic snack.
That's a bold move.
For this particular Keebler snack, we have to, once again, visit that colorful decade that was the 80s. Back in 1985, Keebler launched Tato Skins, made to resemble the popular restaurant appetizer Potato Skins. The chips started out life as potatoes, then were dehydrated, ground up, bleached, and reconstituted so that one side is browned to resemble the potato's skin side and the opposite side as light as the inside of a potato. Tater skins also came in a variety of flavors, such as cheddar and bacon and sour cream and onion. While these chips were both innovative and delicious, lasted until the 2000s before being discontinued. The Tators eventually became part of the TGI Friday family, but haven't been seen in stores again. Pringles Ketchup.
Just give me the ketchup! Okay, it's called ketchup.
If nothing else, Pringles loves to experiment with off-the-wall flavors. Originally, Pringles kept it simple, offering the standard chip flavors to its clientele. However, the brand has since expanded their snack palette to include more exotic flavors, such as ketchup. Now, if you happen to be from Canada, ketchup chips are as commonplace as sour cream and barbecue. However, in the US, the flavor is as mysterious and peculiar as Bigfoot. However, if French fries pair fabulously with the red tangy tomato sauce, then surely potato chips should as well. After all, they're both potatoes, right? With that said, Pringles was bold enough to gift the snack world with their version of ketchup-flavored chips. Yes, the brand's tangy sweet ketchup-flavored chips can be instantly identified by their dark red, and in some cases blue, tube, and will fill your mouth with the right amount of tomato flavor. Unfortunately, these chips just didn't seem to catch on and were discontinued. Perhaps next time the brand will appeal to the more adventurous snackers out there and offer a mustard-flavored chip in the future. Time will tell.
And the prestige that comes with ketchup.
Honorable mention. Here are a few chips that deserve an honorable mention. Kinda like the in memoriam part of an awards show, these chips are also no longer with us. But first, give us an honorable mention by liking this video and hitting that subscribe button. Now, let's talk about Lay's Southern Biscuits and Gravy. Packing the flavor of old-fashioned Southern comfort food into a bag of chips is what you get with these. The delicious taste of biscuits and gravy will fill your head with thoughts of down-home country breakfast after the first chip. Pizzeria's Pizza Chips. These delicious little treats from the 90s were shaped like pizza, tasted like pizza, and came in 3 pizza flavors. Believe it or not, pizzerias were made from actual pizza dough, giving the snack extra authenticity. Now, the top spot.
Shelly, you still got an honorable mentions.
Lay's Crunch Taters.
I have potato chips.
As the biggest potato chip company on the planet, Lay's has been fine-tuning the potato chip for over 80 years. Rarely deviating from a formula that works, Lay's will occasionally offer its loyal fan base a delicious new flavor or a thicker ridged version of their classic chips. This was the case with Lay's Crunch Taters. On the shelves in the late 80s and early 90s, the Crunch Taters were hot and spicy jalapeno potato chips with a really solid crunch.
Bring that heat.
To further hammer this point home, the Taters bag featured a jolly alligator on the front, so snackers knew what they were about to experience. Crunch Taters were available in Hoppin' Jalapeno and Mighty Mesquite Barbecue. However, the Crunchy Taters were discontinued in 1990. Fun fact, if you intend to watch the Macaulay Culkin classic Home Alone anytime soon, keep an eye out for these chips as they make an appearance in the background. Fortunately, the extra crunchy chips made a limited-time comeback this year, so grab yourself a bag and crack open a can of that Crystal Pepsi you've been saving for a good old dose of 90s nostalgia.
Remember it, write it down.
Stick around, leave us a comment, hit that subscribe button, and tap or click on another great video.